July 15th, 1799. In Rashid, a small port city in northern Egypt, a soldier from Napoleon's army was digging in the ground when his pickaxe struck something solid. It was a slab of black granite, but its surface was strange, densely carved, with 3 completely different scripts side by side. To understand this stone, our story must travel back 4,000 years. The ancient Egyptians called their writing Medu Neter, the words of the gods, with these sacred symbols that covered the walls of pyramids and temples from floor to ceiling. But in the year 394 AD, the last Egyptian temple was closed forever. The Roman Empire, having adopted Christianity as its state religion, had banned the writing of the old pagan gods. For the next 1,400 years, no one could read it. Even the Egyptians themselves had forgotten the script of their own ancestors. European scholars had fallen into one fundamental misconception. Hieroglyphs are pictures. Each symbol represents a single concept, and under no circumstances do they represent sounds. This false belief stood as truth for 14 centuries. No one could break through that wall. But just before that wall of 14 centuries would finally fall, a child was born in the small village of Figeac in southern France. Jean-Francois Champollion. At the age of 5, he saw hieroglyphs for the very first time in a book his older brother had brought home. And in that moment, the young Champollion made a decision. I will be the one to solve this. By the age of 11, he had mastered Latin and Greek. At 12, Hebrew. At 13, Arabic. And then, every Oriental language that the scholars of his time could recommend: Persian, Sanskrit, Syriac, and even ancient Chaldean. But there was one more language that would prove truly decisive. Coptic, the nearly dead tongue once spoken by Egyptian Christians. Champollion studied it so obsessively, so deeply, that rumors began to spread that he even talked in his sleep in Coptic. Why Coptic? Champollion sensed something deep in his bones. It was the language of the last descendants of those who once wrote the hieroglyphs. And he knew, somehow, that the answer had to lie within it. But at that very same moment, just across the English Channel, another genius was working on the exact same puzzle. Thomas Young, a physician and physicist, the very same man who had proven that light travels in waves. By the age of 14, he already spoke 12 languages fluently, and people simply called him the man who knew everything. In 1814, Thomas Young made a critical discovery. On the Rosetta Stone, he noticed that certain symbols were enclosed within oval rings. The cartouche. Young began to reason it through. The Greek section contained the names of kings. Therefore, the hieroglyphic section must have also marked royal names in some special way. And surely these oval rings were the answer. And then Young matched several signs inside the cartouche with the consonants of the corresponding Greek royal names. For the first time in 1,400 years, hieroglyphs had been assigned actual phonetic sounds. But Young stopped there. He drew his conclusion: foreign names might be spelled out phonetically. But the true Egyptian words themselves remained pictures, symbols of ideas, just as everyone had believed. And right where the English genius came to a stop, a young Frenchman would soon take the final, decisive step forward. The summer of 1822. At 31 years old, Champollion was almost a broken man, slumped at his desk. For more than 10 years, every single day, he had stared at nothing but hieroglyphs. What he was looking at was a single cartouche from the Rosetta Stone. Inside it lay 7 hieroglyphic signs. And in the Greek text below, that very name was clearly written: Ptolemy, the famous Hellenistic king of Egypt. Champollion began matching the Greek letters to the cartouche, one sign at a time. The square shape was P. The half circle was T. The lion was L. Ptolmys. The cartouche finally matched the Greek name perfectly, letter by letter. And yet, Champollion still doubted himself. After all, he thought, this could simply be a coincidence. Then one day, more cartouches were discovered. Deep within an Egyptian temple, two names appeared together: Ptolemy and Cleopatra. And then, magic happened. Cleopatra must also have a P. Let's compare the two cartouches. First, P. Second, T. Third, O. Fourth, L. And exactly at those positions, the very same hieroglyphs appeared. Cleopatra's name has 9 glyphs in total, and 4 of them match Ptolemy's exactly. September 14th, 1822. Using the alphabet table he had constructed, Champollion tested it on yet another cartouche. And there in that moment, he read out a name: Ramses. This was the decisive moment. Ramses was not a Greek foreigner. He was a true Egyptian pharaoh, one of the greatest in their history. In a single instant, Young's theory collapsed completely. The hieroglyphs spelled out phonetically not only foreign names, but the names of the Egyptians themselves. This was the decisive blow. Ramses was the name of a true Egyptian king, not a Greek. Young's conclusion collapsed. Champollion stood up from his desk. He ran straight to his brother's house, and he cried out at the top of his lungs, "I've got it!" And right there, on the spot, Champollion collapsed, unconscious. For 5 full days, he could not rise from his bed. 10 years of pent-up tension had finally broken in a single instant. Now let's walk through exactly how Champollion solved it, step by step, so we can experience the moment for ourselves. Case 1. The lion, the falcon, and the square. Just memorize these 3 signs. The lion has the sound L. The falcon has the sound A. And the square has the sound P. With just these 3 signs alone, we can already read an entire name. Ptolmys, Ptolemy, the name of the Greek king who had been sealed inside the royal cartouche for centuries. But the real shock begins right here. Champollion soon made a startling discovery. Even the names of the gods themselves had been written out phonetically. Case 2. Take the name of King Thutmose. The first sign is an ibis bird, the symbol of Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. But here, the ibis is not the god himself. It is simply the phonetic spelling of the sound thought. And after it comes Mose. Put together, the name means Thoth has given birth to him. Case 3, the most famous name of all, Ramses. This one is even more fascinating. The first sign is a sun disk, pronounced Ra. And at the same time, it is also the very image of the sun Ra himself. After it comes a sign meaning birth, followed by 2 more signs, each carrying the sound S. Ra has given birth to him. The name of Ramses was not merely a name, it was an entire sentence. The great Ramses II, Egypt's mightiest pharaoh, who ruled for an astonishing 67 years. His entire theology and his royal legitimacy were contained, encoded within his very name. But it wasn't only the names of kings that yielded their secrets. Ordinary, everyday words followed the very same rule. Take, for example, this sign, the shape of a lute, an ancient stringed instrument. It is pronounced Nefer, and its meaning is beautiful. Doesn't this word sound somehow Familiar? Nefertiti. Case 4. Nefertiti, the most beautiful queen of ancient Egypt. The true meaning of her name was, in fact, the beautiful one has come. Case 5. That famous cross we have all seen at least once, the cross with a loop on top. Its name is the Ankh. It is pronounced Ankh, and its meaning is simply one word: life. On the walls of royal tombs, there is a recurring scene, a god holding the Ankh up to the king's nose. It was a depiction of the gods literally breathing the breath of life directly into the king. For 1,400 years, we had absolutely no idea what this scene meant, but now, at last, we finally know. In Case 6, once the words yielded, the sentences came alive. Once the sentences yielded, one whole side of the stone yielded. Once the stone yielded, the temple walls began to speak. And once the temple walls yielded, 4,000 years of ancient Egypt finally awakened from its long, long sleep. But this story has one cruel and unexpected twist left to tell. From that fateful day, September 14th, 1822, when 4,000 years of silence finally came to an end. Exactly 6 years later, in the year 1828, Champollion finally visited Egypt for the very first time, the dream he had carried throughout his entire lifetime. He stood with his own 2 feet inside the very temples whose ancient writings he had brought back to life. And then, just 4 more years later, on March 4th, 1832, Champollion passed away at only 41 years of age. The causes of his death were chronic overwork and tuberculosis. He had lived for only 9 years and 6 months after his great decipherment. In that brief span of time, what exactly did he manage to leave behind for us? In those final 9 years, he completed his great Egyptian grammar book. Just before he died, he handed the precious manuscript to his older brother, and he said, "Please keep this safe. It will be my calling card to all future generations." But one final question still remains unanswered. That black stone. Where is the Rosetta Stone today? The British Museum in London. In the year 1801, when France suffered defeat in its war against Britain, the Rosetta Stone was seized as a British prize of war and was carried away to England. France had discovered it, but it was Britain, in the end, who took the stone away forever. For 200 years now, Egypt has demanded the return of the Rosetta Stone. And for 200 years, Britain has continued to refuse. To this very day, we still cannot find an answer to one simple question: who is the true owner of this stone? But there is one person here who is the true winner of this entire story. Neither French nor British. His name is Ramses II. Ramses carved his own name into temples and monuments across every corner of ancient Egypt. He had understood something profound: if the writing survives the ages, then he himself would also survive. And 4,000 years later, a young Frenchman read his name aloud, once again, in the city of Paris. He had sent his name forward into eternity itself. And right now, in this very video, in this very moment, we are still calling out his Ramses. His name is still alive today. At SCRIPTA Archive, you can explore everything we covered today. On the Egyptian Hieroglyphs page, you can find original photographs of all 3 scripts on the Rosetta Stone, together with the complete materials from Champollion's historic announcement of 1822. Every cartouche we have explored together in today's video, Cleopatra, Ptolemy, Ramses, Tutmosis, can be examined there in full detail, one glyph at a time. I truly encourage you to visit the site for yourself. On the Cartouche Learning page, you can take an empty cartouche and write out your very own name in hieroglyphs, one glyph at a time. First, Champollion's famous public announcement of September 27, 1822, known as the Letter to Monsieur Dacier. It is widely considered to be one of the shortest and yet one of the greatest academic letters in all of human. Second, the other great achievements of Thomas Young, the wave theory of light, the science of human vision, and the very concept of energy itself. Beyond hieroglyphs, he was a man who fundamentally changed the course of science. Take some time to explore the full range of his genius. Third, the magnificent Temple of Abu Simbel. Built by Ramses II himself, specifically to proclaim his own divinity. On its monumental walls, you can see firsthand exactly how the carved inscriptions sent the name of Ramses straight into eternity. Let me now bring everything together in closing. In 1799, a soldier struck a stone with his pickaxe. In 1822, a young man unlocked the secrets hidden within that stone. In 1832, that young man passed away. But the writing he had deciphered survived him. And the name of Ramses from 4,000 years ago still lives today on every tongue that speaks it. One person's obsession broke a silence of 14 centuries. One single book changed the entire course of one small child's life. And one written symbol now bridges 4,000 years of human time. If today's video meant something to you, please subscribe and like. See you in the next episode.